Cool. No problem. Thanks so much, guys. All right. Let's get started on Team 3.
Okay, how's it going? We're Team Kamistry, and so we created a system that we think basically has created a new dimension of chemistry. I'm Brian Poffberg, but I go by Poff. That's Andy. This is Connor. We all work together. So what is it? Kamistry is a new, novel way to both visualize and explore the laws of chemistry in a way that's kind of never been done before. Kamistry takes the best of both physical and virtual worlds and kind of puts them together in what we're calling the interaction space. And we're going to kind of talk about that more throughout this presentation. All right. So why did we decide to kind of like look into a project like that? Well, it turns out exploratory learning is really useful and helpful. We did a lot of research on how students learn better through exploratory learning, being able to like create hypotheses and interact with them and test them real fast, and then create another hypothesis and explore that test. And so this is kind of the constructivism learning theory among students. And through our research, we discovered that this kind of exploratory learning is validated through virtual reality in a lot of different ways, where students use virtual reality to explore their environment and learn new things. And so we kind of wanted to roll with that. And also we went with, we wanted a new way to visualize chemistry, because chemistry is kind of like inherently 3D on the very basic level. Like you have 3D molecules and 3D elements, but that's kind of really tough to visualize. You either make like a physical model, or you're left with like a 2D representation on a screen or a textbook. And we wanted to change that. We wanted to give a new way to explore that.
So in that regard, how the why actually applies to education. Like you said, it's kind of difficult to visualize something so small. We have pictures and books and such, and what's, I guess, the kind of the basis for it is currently everybody's kind of used in high school chemistry, the old like balls and sticks are kind of putting things together. And so basically we wanted to virtualize that. So we kind of looked at that as being somewhat of an unhelpful solution in that you're limited by so much of what you actually have around you in the physical format. Also, labs tend to be limiting, and then you can only do you can only go so far. There's so much you have to watch out for safety-wise, and technology provides a solution to not having to watch out for those types of things.
I thought it would be useful for researchers as well, because they usually deal with very complex molecules that are very difficult to visualize. And another thing is that experimentation is very costly and can be dangerous unless it's virtualized. Okay,
so by using this proposed Kamistry system, both researchers and students alike can gain a deeper understanding of the field of chemistry and hopefully gain deeper insights into how elements and molecules work together. Through collaboration and natural gestures, elements and molecules can be constructed, manipulated, and understood better with our proposed system. So, how does this work? What are we doing with this? We're using like 3 really cool technologies: augmented reality, which is different from virtual reality. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later. Hand tracking using the Microsoft Kinect, and then a really cool kind of chemistry engine to make sure that whatever kind of reactions or chemistry simulation happens is realistic. We want this to show like realistic interactions between elements and molecules. That's really important to us. All right, so first of all, prior work in the augmented reality. I want to talk a little bit more about what it is. It's kind of like the interaction between physical and virtual. Virtual reality is all like you're completely in this virtual reality. Augmented reality is kind of physical and virtual. So you can see here they're using like this little tablet device, pulling it up to like that kind of image, and it's the device is actually, camera is recognizing that image and can project like 3D objects on the screen. So what we discovered is augmented reality is used, but it's kind of in a lot of like kind of toy applications. There's not a lot of robust uses for it at the moment. Not a lot of people have done a lot of stuff with it. Some people have used it in, I think Lowe's has used it in like circulars where you can hold your phone at the circular and like on the phone will pop up like more information about like the product or whatever. This is kind of like a high level kind of gimmicky application, so we kind of wanted to do a little bit more with this.
And so as far as prior work with the Kinect goes, it's a really popular device, widely available, relatively inexpensive. So a system based around the Kinect for gestures and hand tracking can be easily scalable to anywhere. But also in that regard, we have a ton of ton of research we found on the actual hand detection, recognition, gesture recognition beyond that. And I'll talk more about that in our actual implementation.
All right, so augmented reality, AR, is created, your AR environment is created when virtual objects are overlaid on top of physical objects. So we're basically turning the smartphone screen into basically a window into what we're calling interaction space. So here we have what's called a frame marker. It's a simple object that the smartphone device can recognize, the camera of the smartphone device can recognize. And then we can overlay 3D objects on top of this, the physical environment. So here we have the camera on this iPad has detected the frame marker in the background, and it's projected this 3D molecule into the interaction space. So you're looking through basically this iPad screen into the interaction space. And so we're visualizing this molecule in kind of in a 3D way. To do augmented reality, we used a library called Vuforia. Vuforia is created by Qualcomm. It's a really awesome library that allows you to take frame markers and tell the camera, tell the smartphone device, okay, this is what you're looking for. And once the camera detects it through Vuforia, it gives you a kind of a translation matrix to the smartphone to tell it, okay, this is where you are in the interaction space area. And so on this last slide, I showed the what's called a frame marker. Basically, we used an image target instead. An image target is only slightly different. This is kind of the image target that we use. An image target can be really anything, but basically we had to compile it in such a way that the smartphone knows what to recognize. And using an image like this, it basically breaks up the image into a whole bunch of like recognizable features that make it really, really easy for the camera to detect. And that's really important to allow the smartphone to always be aware of the augmented reality kind of environment.
As far as the hand tracking goes, so we use Microsoft Connect, as I already said, and it basically just tracks what's happening in front of it. I'll go to the next slide and talk more about actually what's behind that. So we chose the OpenAI framework to access the Connect data. There's two choices when you're interacting with Connect. You can use either the Windows SDK or this OpenAI solution, both of which, they're pretty much equally give you the same data, but there are some little differences in them. We chose OpenAI primarily because it had some awesome middleware called Night. And what that did was allow us to already get and track a hand that is already in the space. So it gives us it only gives us a single point on the hand, but it's always tracking, always on. The Windows SDK is made way more towards body movements. It's made for full living room type exercises. But we needed hand in specific. So we went with this one.
The last part of the system is the Kamistry engine, which we use a third-party library called Chromex, the ChromeGen molecular simulation, molecular atomic chemistry simulation. It's a molecular dynamics library that has known for high performance that will simulate any type of reaction or anything that can happen in a chemical environment. And the reason why we use this is because originally we were just going to do static lookups of predefined reactions, but this allows us to have any kind of reaction that can happen will be simulated on the engine, and you'll get the actual response back.
Okay, so through all this, we've kind of created a system that allows for the interaction with the laws of chemistry that's never before been possible. And we think right now we have really two pretty big potential demographics: students/educators, and then researchers. So students and educators, basically with Kamistry, there can be a whole bunch of wide range of new classroom activities for all ages. This could be middle school, high school, even college. And so with the Kamistry system in the classroom, students can kind of gather around the interaction space to complete assignments that the educator comes up with. So to actually learn about chemistry, you're not just limited to lectures, reading the textbook, and maybe lab experiments. You now have this new, really cool, novel system. And then, like we said before, there's no repercussions or penalties for exploring the system. If an educator wants students to work together to build certain types of molecules, like acids or bases, and then react these kind of molecules together to get the results, there's no kind of repercussions or penalties if students create the wrong element or molecule or reacts things together that shouldn't be reacted together with. And so it's kind of allows for free exploratory learning. Again, going back to the idea of testing out a hypothesis. Potential concerns we had though with the system, availability. Maybe not every classroom could have a Kamistry system. Maybe they wouldn't be available to like every single school. That's a potential concern. And then handicap accessibility. We're doing a lot of like hand tracking and hand gestures and stuff like that. And I think in the future we really want to kind of look into maybe alternate ways to interact with our interaction space.
And for researchers, since we give them all the tools they would need to explore in a sandbox environment, they should be able to test their hypothesis quickly and efficiently. They can also easily represent complex molecules very simply, and you don't have to have any kind of physical model to deal with that. It's all virtual.
Okay, and so we have a couple of planned studies that we're carrying out actually over this next weekend and the start of this next week. We have, first of all, the learning study. Kamistry is a really cool system. It's really interesting, but we wanted to actually have utility, actually have work, actually be able to teach students or help gain new insights. And so we have this this kind of like step-by-step for our learning study where all students, the students that we have, will take this kind of pre-test on a really simple chemistry subject and kind of gauge a baseline of what they know already. Then there's going to be two groups. This one big group will be split into two. One group will use Kamistry, and one group will be given a pamphlet to kind of study. Both teams both groups will go into like study time, where one group will get to use Kamistry and interact with like elements and molecules in the subject area, and the other group will be using this pamphlet just to kind of study over the material. And then they'll again take the post-test, the same questions, just to kind of gauge, did they actually learn anything? And then if they did learn something, then what group learned better? Did the group that used the pamphlet learn better, or the group that used the Kamistry system? Then we want to do an exploration study, kind of like, this is more qualitative, to kind of gauge, is the system easy to use? Is it helpful to the students? Do the students like the system? That's kind of important because if students don't like the system, then they're not going to be encouraged to explore the field of chemistry and then won't really gain a lot of insights from it.
All right, and although we haven't gotten studies done yet, we have received some feedback and through, I guess, our awards and our presentations that we've given so far. So, like the team before us, we were the ones that tied them for the second place in the computer science statistics and the glass copy minutes as well. And then this, I guess, 2 weeks ago, we were actually given first place in our first Texas A&M engineering showcase, which is among, I guess, all capstone classes in the engineering department. As far as our future work, what we're learning to do with it now. So didn't talk too much on gestures on what we actually handle right now, but it essentially consists of just fingers, how many fingers are the users using, and in what way do they kind of relate to each other. So a big future work will be improving those gestures, giving more customizability and being able to do way more natural things with what you're trying to do in the system as far as rotate versus grabbing it, picking up, moving it, and dropping elements. This system is pretty abstract in that it can be applied to many other domains that you also have difficulty visualizing. Our big one that we've been kind of talking about is our biology, anatomy type of situation. Since there's no repercussions and penalties, as Pop was saying, you can scan in, I guess imagine like a virtual body of some animal or some human or whatever, and then you're using a system like this to kind of maneuver through it and actually dissect it in a virtual way, and with the ability to go back, right? And there's no actual cost of doing that. And then I guess in additional, it would be kind of our studies, actually bringing studies to a classroom, to an actual real world environment.
Cool. And then we have a video to kind of show Kamistry in action.
Kamistry is a novel way to explore new spaces within education and research settings. The complete Kamistry system makes use of augmented reality and tracking and a powerful chemistry engine to create a virtual yet almost tangible space in which the laws of chemistry are observed and explored. By utilizing AR and the Connect together, we created our unique interaction space. The tablet or smartphone device acts as a window into this virtual world, allowing users to explore and visualize its contents. As the user moves their hand in this space, the Connect detects the hand and allows for interactions. present an example of several molecules being simulated by GROMACS. In this example, a molecule that exists in the virtual interaction space is being modified through a simple gesture. Through the combination of these technologies, we hope to create a unique and helpful way to interact with and visualize the laws of chemistry in both education and research settings.
And that's it. Any questions?
Well, that's the other one. What's the toughest computer technology problem that you saw?
So there were quite a few. I think one of our big problems was the so using augmented reality, we kind of have like a coordinate space, a 3D coordinate space through that, but then the Kinect kind of also has its own kind of depth sensing coordinate space. So translating between those two was
Two different coordinate systems.
right. So that was really a challenge, I think. Yeah, sure. That was big.
So you guys mentioned doing studies like on best education. Did y'all go to the Department of Education, or did you talk to anybody about it, or just did your research online, or?
We read through a lot of research papers, on kind of exploratory learning. I read this 20-page mammoth of a paper that focused on how students learn, especially with like virtual reality, and we really thought that was really highly applicable to what we were doing.
In the chemistry part,
Mm-hmm.
how did you determine? Is it just did you work with anybody with that? Did you have somebody at Grown that help out? Or?
Well, actually, Connor's basically a chemistry minor, so he really helped us on a lot of like getting the actual like chemistry system plugged in and what we needed and stuff like that.
So we have time for one or two more questions. Any more questions? No? Okay.
Cool.
Can you all see the system being expanded to things like protein folding?
Yeah, GROMACS is the computation engine for folding at home. That is actually the primary reason why we use GROMACS. And one of our papers was the gamified program called Folded, which basically is a MMO of basically everyone trying to fold a protein to the lowest energy state without using in a gamified program interface.
So potentially with further development, could you give it like a DNA sequence and it would pop out, a protein sequence?
Well, that process is extremely computational intensive. So you could do that, but then you'd have to be waiting a couple days for the rest of the simulation to finish. It's limited to really small time steps, like simple acid-base reactions that we know. And doing large proteins like that would be probably too computational intensive until like 2020.
But our system is distributed enough to where we're doing computations are all server side, and it's just sending what to display to the phones. The phones actually aren't doing any computation; it's all server side.
I don't know a whole lot about the GROMACS stuff, but what kinds of feedback do you want to provide through that reality?
GROMACS has a lot. The main thing is their molecular dynamics program, which does basically these atoms, what happens if you put in this environment. There's also other things where you have calculate electrostatic potential, basically showing how negative this part of the atom is, and that can be useful because sometimes another molecule would come in at that electronegative site and then cause a reaction. And so that would be good for visualization with that part of the function. There's dozens of functions GROMACS gives you, but we're only using a couple of them for that.
I think it's really cool. Have y'all considered using the Google glasses?
That'd be really cool. We kind of talked about at the beginning of this project. We got really excited about a lot of different potential ways to visualize kind of like the space. Google Glass would be pretty cool because it's pretty inherently augmented reality. The idea of projecting things in your space where you're still interacting with the physical space. So that would be a pretty cool one for sure to look into.
Our original, whenever we were proposing this idea, our hardware would be, instead of a connector, we use the Leap Motion, which unfortunately doesn't exist yet. It's been released in like 8 instead of Kinect, you have about millimeter precision, but for this, it's 270 hertz sub-millimeter, I think 10th of a millimeter precision. So, and the good thing about it is it has really, really robust hand gestures built into the API already, so we don't have to do any addition to that.
That would have made our life a lot easier.
And for visualization, I don't even know if this has an release date, but the Oculus Rift is a more powerful, it is a miniaturized heads-up display, or a, what do you call that? Head-mounted display. And it's, I think, 300 hertz. It's really impressive technology that's going to be released for a lot of new games in the future.
What's that called again?
The Oculus Rift.
You can make that.
Oculus.
That's cool.
So were you able to actually visualize any actual chemical reactions?
Not yet. That's still in the process of being. We have the two parts working. It's just they're not connected to the server yet.
Okay.
Cool. That should do it. Let's go and give them an applause.